Tonight on the Fanatic Forum, I'm going to introduce you to your next favorite podcast. But beware, it's a little bit of a spooky one here. Welcome to Moss Hollow. We'll be right back. Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome to the Fanatic Forum. I'm your Fanatic and host, George Buehler. Hope everybody's having a great one out there so far. I'm excited about this week's episode here because over like the last year or so, I've recently just gotten into podcasts like hardcore. I listen to you guys know I'm a big wrestling fan, so I listen to, a few wrestling podcasts, and I've got the Office Ladies, I'm a big Office fan, the Always Sunny podcast. There's a couple of Weird Al podcasts I listen to. Of course, Movie Meltdown, my buddy Brian Renfro. Quentin Tarantino's got a podcast. As you can see, I've gone down the rabbit hole. But what you guys don't know is that my friend has got a new podcast that I really need to introduce you guys to, especially if you like the horror stuff, the spooky stuff, whatever else. So let me bring her on here. She is a very talented actor, writer, director, and of course, my all-time favorite Supergirl with respect to Melissa Benoist and Helen Slater, my friend Melinda Beck. How you doing, dear?
Hey, George. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited to be here.
Hey, you're welcome. I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just going to say thanks so much for the awesome intro. I was just sort of reminiscing about the Supergirl days because it's October, it's about that time, and the zoo just started up their events again, too. So I kind of miss dressing up as Supergirl and doing the state fair with you. And, I really enjoyed getting to do that. So thanks for having me as your Supergirl.
Welcome. Yeah, and to kind of give you guys some reference there. So, yeah, back in my TV days, a very exciting part of my job is that when it came around time for the state fair or comic book conventions, I got to hire cosplayers to portray the DC characters from all the CW superhero shows. So I had a Flash, I had a Green Arrow, I had a Batwoman, and of course I had a Supergirl. And I don't think you were the first person I hired, but I had like one during the day, and then a mutual friend, Jody Perkins. She basically, forwarded me your information. Said, "Hey, if you need a Supergirl, you need to check, Melinda out." And then I saw your pictures. I'm like, "Yeah." And so then we brought you on, and the rest is history. And the thing I love too is that every time I had you on as Supergirl, as soon as you're in the suit, everybody's thinking I had hired Melissa Benoist to come show up. So like, you got Super Israel. I mean, it's like, no, it's like she's, with the little kids, I kind of kayfabe it a little bit. Oh yeah, it's like she just flew on over. It's just cool. She wasn't busy at the time, but with the adults, like, no, it's a local actress. So she's from here. It's not the real thing. And they're like, you're kidding me. So. So,
I was so flattered by that. I will say the costume did a lot of the work for me. The costume was awesome. And it felt good to wear. Like you feel like a hero in that, And it's funny that you mentioned the kids because it was really the adults that were more excited about it.
Yeah.
Especially at the con when adults would come up to me and ask me questions about the show. And you helped me a lot getting up on my research. I watched every episode. I was very diligent, but there were times when I thought, I don't know, there are some really specific questions. I need some help. So thank goodness you were there. That was really cool to have you as like the informational, you were like what you're doing now, except in public, which is cool.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to reach a larger audience, not just the state fairs went up. Yeah.
Yeah, the con was packed for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah. Those were fun days too. We got a couple of comments already here. Seth Moore from the Smokes and Road Beers podcast. Check them out Thursday nights. Saying last podcast on the left is a good horror podcast to check out. And of course, you know Seth from the cons because he was my right hand man, the red haired fellow, whatnot, and had a beard. Says
Yeah.
the best Supergirl. So, see, there you go.
Oh, thank you so much. That's really sweet.
But we're definitely here to talk about your new project here, which I'm very excited about. I'll put up a little graphic here. Moss Hollow. You call this a podcast, but it's more than just a podcast. Uh, Break us down a little bit of what the show is.
Yeah, so this is an audio drama that had been sort of bubbling in the back of my head for a while. I stepped into voiceover about 3 years ago now. I left my full-time job and I started pursuing a more like corporate side of voiceover. So things like commercial work and corporate narration and audiobooks as well. And after a while, I thought, I enjoy this work, but I wasn't fueling my own creativity. I was voicing other people's stuff. So while I still am doing that, I thought, I need to get my writing muscle moving again. I needed to create something that's kind of out of my own head and I can bring my own personality and my own heart to it. And what came from that was Moss Hollow. And Moss Hollow is an audio drama set in Appalachia. It involves folk magic and superstition. It involves ghost stories, and it sort of plays with time a little bit and how we remember things. And the two main characters are two women, Anna and Lacey. And the inciting incident is when a child at a local summer camp goes missing. And it sort of involves, as you were saying, it's a spooky podcast. So as I was writing it, I never really intended for it to be a horror story. And as I started developing the outline and recording more and more, I started to lean into it further because I realized, yeah, this is actually pretty spooky. And at first I was worried, like, are people going to think this is too scary? Because I'm not a horror person. I'm really sensitive. And then I realized, no, actually, I should be leaning into this. And you're the first person that called it a horror podcast. And it made me realize, oh my God, it is. Yeah, it really is. And I need to call it that because I wasn't before. So that's sort of Moss Hollow in a nutshell. It sort of balances fantasy and magic with horror and ghosts and sort of folk magic elements, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, it absolutely does. That's the thing. I really kind of going into it. It's like because the whole atmosphere. I mean, between the music, between the soundscape that's in there. Yeah, it's like it's just I wouldn't say it's like biting your nails, kind of terrifying or anything, but it's definitely got a very eerie sort of feel. And seeing as we're already in the spooky season, it's just perfect complement sort of thing like that. Yeah, of course, you've got a prologue, and there's 5 episodes in right now. Yeah, so highly, highly, highly recommend checking this thing out. And let's talk a little bit about kind of breaking down the show itself. Of course, you perform all the voices on there, which was surprising to me because I think was it episode 2 when the other main character Lacey is introduced, and I'm hearing the voice performance. I'm like, oh, I guess Melinda must have hired somebody else because you were doing the voice for Anna, the main character. You're doing the voice for the little girl and some of the other characters. But then when you get Lacey, I'm like, that doesn't sound like Melinda. And then I'm listening to the episode more and more, kind of almost half distracted by. I'm like, oh, this is Melinda. So. Yeah, great performance on her because it's 2 very distinct voices. So kudos on that.
Thanks so much. When I'm recording it, when I'm writing it, I'm not really thinking about the voicing of it. And then when I'm in the booth, that's when I do my best to not have to go back and forth or re-edit. I want to make sure that I have their voices distinctly within me. And so when it's time to record, they just come out individually. The only thing is that Lacey has a different accent than me, so I have to make sure to be as as specific as possible. I don't want to lose it when I'm going between her and Anna. And
Right.
Anna is I guess, the closer one to me vocally.
Yep.
Like in my daily life, I sort of talk like her. And so Lacey is really, really fun because she's sort of this fiery Kentucky girl. She's got, like a harder R. She's a firebrand. She likes to drink. And
Mhm.
I love being able to play characters that I would normally not be cast as. And I'm normally cast as like the nurse, the teacher, the sort of gentler caregiving kind of role, or the
Mhm.
or the mom. I'm in mom territory now, which I'm happy about. but Lacey is very, very different. She's a little more assertive. And
Yeah.
so getting to write her and perform her is teaching me about different sides about myself as well, which is what makes acting so much fun.
That's awesome. So like I say, it's definitely a distinct performance from Anna. So yeah, that's fun for me. Basically knowing you, and then all of a sudden like hearing like, all right, cool, you get all these different aspects of the performance. Of course, two other very distinct things about the show that really makes it stand out and kind of helps build the world is the music and the soundscape. And of course, you've got are they both local women who are involved? Like, so you have Kendall does the music, and is it uh,
Melody,
Melody? Yes, yeah, who does
yeah,
the soundscape?
I would love to share more about them. So
Yeah.
Kendall is a banjo. She's a banjo player and musician based out of North Carolina,
Okay.
and we've actually never met in person. I was really excited about her music because I found her, I guess, through Instagram, or I can't remember. I think it was through Instagram,
Mhm.
and I just reached out to her and messaged her and said, "Hey, your music has been kind of living in my head while I'm writing this. Would you be interested in doing the intro and outro for the show?" And she said, "Yeah, absolutely." And what was so remarkable is that within like 2 days of me first reaching out to her, to like the end of the week or something like that, she had already composed it and it was ready to go. She delivered exactly what I asked, and I was just blown away. I mean, she's really, really talented and quick on her feet. So she sent me that almost immediately, and that helped me solidify, "Oh my god, this is real. This is a real show now." So that was original music written by her, performed by her, and it's featured in every episode. And it also became the motif for a lot of the sort of flashbacks or ghostly encounters, things that sort of feel like something misremembered. And I
Mhm.
love it because of its mystery, its inherent mystery. And then Melody is a friend of mine who I met as a coworker a long time ago. And so she used to live here, and now she currently lives in North Carolina as well.
Okay.
And uh, one day, I can't remember, because she's lived there for a couple years now, and she learned that I was making this, and then messaged me out of the blue and was like, "Hey, you need some mountain sounds?" And I was like, "Yeah, actually, I really do." And so she sent me recordings just from her yard and one of the summer camps that she works out there. So her girlfriend Naomi also works at this summer camp. And this, by the way, there is a summer camp in the show. The summer camp is fictional; it doesn't exist. But remembering that my friends work at a real mountain summer camp helped sort of inspire the setting and what sounds might be around, like creaking wood and birdsong and katydids, of course. So Melody was kind enough to just step out into her yard and walk around the summer camp and record some ambient sounds, things like hawks, things like crows, which also make an appearance in the show,
Yep.
and a few other things that really added to the realism and the authenticity. Because one of the things that's really important to me is to make sure that it's um, this to make sure that the story is respectful and authentic, so that it's not taking a region and just sort of boiling it down to the cliches and the stuff that we've already heard. And I wanted to make a story about real people and real experiences and young women who are undergoing a huge transformation in their lives. And that was the most important thing to me. I did not want it to sort of boil down into this like lazily packaged thing about how woods are spooky, and there is a little bit of spooky woods, of course, because that has to be in there. But hopefully it's more character driven and deepened than that. So the soundscape, even though it's a small detail, really, really helps honor that area and not just have it sort of become a wash.
Yeah, I understand it. That's the thing too. It's, you know, there's so many aspects to the show because, like I said, the music adds so much atmosphere. Melody does a great job as the Foley artist because there's some wonderful sound effects, good sound editing in there. But that's where the editing is on your part. But yeah, just everything just works for it. But aside from just the spooky atmosphere, I mean, there is a mystery going on. We're looking for a missing girl, but then as we're looking for the missing girl, a few other mysteries sort of pop up. I don't want to give too much away to anyone who hasn't listened. But yeah, a few other mysteries start popping up, and then as we get into, like you said, kind of the fantasy and the herbologist sort of magic and whatever else, and kind of natural sort of defense against darkness, sort of aspects to the show. That just adds so many more levels to things. So yeah, it just really makes it a fun show. It really does. There's so many levels to it. Uh,
Thanks.
you're very welcome. I got a couple more comments here. It says Facebook user, but I know that's Miss Keisha Acuff. Hello, beautiful people. Hello to you too, dear.
Hi.
Artistic Garcia says, hey, hello to you. Seth Moore chiming in says he loves how podcasts have brought back the audio drama like the old time radio shows. Can't wait to check this out. See, there you go. Yeah, this is right up your alley, Seth. You enjoy this. Uh, yeah, so the actual story itself, was there any particular inspiration for this, or was it just kind of like you kind of, got a kind of an idea and then the idea sort of grew from there?
I think it started with wanting to make something that was character driven, and I started to think about what kinds of characters would I want to perform and what kind of character would I be comfortable voicing for a few months at a time. And Anna came out of that. So originally, Lacey didn't exist. She was just like an extra character. And then I realized actually there's a dualism between the both of them that become really, really important in the rest of the story, which I won't give away. But there's a reason that they need equal voicing and equal perspectives. And so then Lacey was born out of that I needed to switch back and forth for the most part between each episode, between their point of view. So that's been a really fun challenge. Otherwise, the themes that were kicking around in my head were themes of grief, um, things that we don't get a chance to process on a daily basis, just because of the society we live in. And this idea of unshared, unprocessed grief was really important for me to explore. And then also, other things that have been kicking around in my life have been looking into the history of witchcraft or herbalism or things that in the past women were typically demonized for. And I guess there was sort of a combination of feminist themes, processing grief, and sort of a more fun, superficial herbalist viewpoint. Because I don't know about you, but whenever I walk around, sometimes I feel a little bit of guilt about not knowing what every tree is. Maybe this is where I start to get really weird, but we should know that stuff. That is, something that we share the planet with. Why don't I know all of the plants around me? And I'm pretty good at identifying stuff, but sometimes I'm not. And I get out my phone and I, you know, look it up on an app and I learn about it really quickly. But I started to realize, oh my God, there's so much around me, even just outside in my yard, that I never paid attention to. I never appreciated it. And, it's common now for people to go, oh, well, did you know that dandelions, you can make tea out of it and stuff like that. And there's so much knowledge that um, has been lost because of our checkered past. That's what I'm going to say, because of recent Western history, and being able to reclaim that and give it something um, special and use it in the story has been really, really important because it's an excuse to learn about it and address it in a way that is character driven and sacred almost. I really wanted to give it attention in that way.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you. It's they're, I'm kind of the same way. I would, like, I wonder what this is, or every now and then, or I think I know what it is, and I, incorrectly identify it. So thankfully, I'm not going around, sampling plants myself, and end up eating like, poison sumac or something. But no, I dig that though, and I like how, of course, you put personal experience, you put your own interests, and yeah, that's always what I love about the creative process. There's so many ingredients to the soup, basically, and then it comes out as a beautiful stew here. And so we have Moss Hollow. Seth is on here saying that he used to be a Boy Scout and he can't identify grass. So there you go. Grass.
Seth, it's not too late to learn.
See, there you go. Exactly. And Keisha says she's the same way with trees and plants as well. So yeah, of course, and as I know Keisha, she's a very natural person and whatnot. Of course, they live on a farm and have lots of beautiful animals and everything.
Awesome.
I would assume that definitely knowing your plants is probably important. So little fur babies don't eat something they shouldn't be eating. And then says she loves a story that helps the audience learn, and that's exactly right. You actually do learn some stuff when we start getting into, I think it was about what, episode 3 is when kind of you know the herbalism sort of starts kicking in. So yeah, that is kind of fun to learn. And a character starts kind of breaking things down for you, like, oh yeah, okay. So yeah, there is an aspect of learning in this. So it's educational and entertaining all at the same time.
Yeah, and it's been really cool I mean, in educating myself selfishly, looking into old Appalachian folk tradition, herbalism, and witchcraft in the mountains, which interestingly isn't actually relegated to women. Both men and women can be healers, witch doctors. There have been different names for people over time, but I wanted to make sure that um, if you're a listener who comes from a line of people who have always been in that part of the mountains, who have a history where like so and so's uncle was a healer and was able to blow the fire out of a burn. I wanted that listener to be able to relate to what I'm saying. That's a point of self consciousness for me because being based in Louisville, I'm not Appalachian. So there's been this really interesting gap that I sort of wrote into Anna's character, where she's a Kentuckian. This isn't really explicit in the story, but
Right.
she's a Kentuckian that is in the mountains, and it's like a different culture. So that's sort of been an identity, um, an identity reckoning for me that I'm a Kentuckian, but there's so much about Kentucky that I don't know, and there are parts of our region that are really specific and interesting and really, really cool and perfect fodder for stories, but it needs to be respectful and appreciated. And I don't want to just like write something in there for convenience. I want it to be really, really special. So there's more Appalachian stuff that's coming into play soon. Episode 3, as you mentioned, is the first time that we feel solidly in Appalachia, and there's sort of a bending of time. And you hopefully, if I did my job right, you feel like you're really in a cabin in the mountains, and that will come back soon as well.
Yeah, that was well done. By the way, that was, yeah. Like I say, just what I love about the show, and of course the first, I guess, after I found out about it, I was had about an hour or so car ride. So I was able to actually knock out a couple of, well, I knocked out the prologue and 2 episodes in the car ride. And
Nice.
thankfully it was a night drive too. So it's like just adding to everything, and just the whole atmosphere just added to the whole performance of it all. So it just worked out great. It's a great listening experience. But yeah, this thing is, I recommend, definitely wearing some headphones, or if you're, going to listen to this on speakers, turn it up, because like the great soundscape really is very well done, and just totally just puts you in the story. So it's kind of one of those things too, is like, because the episodes are pretty short, they're like about half hour, a little less. And so it's really good storytelling when basically you're like, oh, it's already over. So, and you gotta wait and wait for the next episode.
Oh,
So,
thank
so
you.
you're well done. So, well, like I said, you've got a prologue, and there's 5 full episodes so far, because episode 5 just came out this past Tuesday. How many episodes can we expect from this series? At least the first season so far.
Yeah, I wanted this to be a capsule project. So about 20 is what I've planned for. It could be as many as 22.
Cool.
And I do have a bonus episode scheduled for Friday, October 13th. So that episode I'm really excited for, because that's going to be sort of an intermission where I just tell ghost stories from the region. And I'm still working on putting that together. So if anybody has a favorite Appalachian or Kentucky based ghost story, you can totally send that to me. And I'll put some contact info in the chat at some point. But yeah, please submit your ghost stories, because I love um, getting to tell them in my own voice. I'm growing as a storyteller, so that's another reason why I'm selfishly really excited for that. But
Yeah,
otherwise,
actually,
oh
oh,
yeah, there it is. Yeah, so on
yeah.
the website, you'll find a way to contact me, and also I have a Twitter page. I know, imagine, God, Twitter's dying right as I release a podcast, but there it is. If you're still on Twitter, you can find me at Moss Hollow Pod, and you can send me a direct message too and hit me up that way.
There you go. Yeah. So mosshollowpod.com. And of course, Moss Hollow is everywhere you listen to podcasts anyway. So, whatever, you're on Spotify, you're on, Google Podcasts about to go away, but whatever else, wherever you happen to listen to podcasts, or you can just directly go to mosshollowpod.com. You can listen to all the episodes available. You can download them. And like Melinda said, if you want to, throw in your own 2 cents on things, give her some kudos, or, give her some ghost story suggestions or whatever else that, if you're a native to the Appalachian area, that, stuff you may have heard. Of course, Kentucky, you got to talk about the goat man, because that's, that's our cryptozoic monster, or the
Totally.
Potalick monster, whatever you want to call him, but yeah, so it's like, that's just the fun of the podcast here. So a couple more. Oh, Johnny, hello, Johnny says howdy. It says shared. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Awesome.
And then Seth is saying the audio file me is excited by the word soundscapes. Oh, there you go. So yeah, I think it's for me, it feels like that, Moss Hollow, like you could do this story, and then it could almost be kind of like a Twin Peaks sort of thing. Like you could have other stories, within the Moss Hollow world, that don't necessarily have to deal with Anna and Lacey. You could, expand on things, further if you wanted to after this series, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, I'm excited to see, more for it. We'll hear more from the show and where things go. But yeah, like I said, I get, not just because we're friends, but it's genuinely a good show, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm very excited about promoting this thing.
Thank you. I'm so like humbled by that, because when you're making something that's a solo project, you're just sort of, I don't know how authors do it. People who are cranking out novels because you're just alone the whole time. And then finally you're published and you don't know how people are going to react. Like you hope it's going to be good. But that's part of why releasing something as a serial like this has been so rewarding, because I don't know. Like I think I'm making something that I really like, and I hope that other people like it too. But it's great to see people's actual feedback every time an episode is released. I have another friend who texts me when he finally listens, and he says really important, detailed things about like the the things that inspired how do I put this? Things that were inspired within him based on listening to a certain episode.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's really, really valuable because I don't know. I don't know until I release it, you know?
Yeah, sure. But yeah, you're absolutely right though. It's very much kind of you are on an island until basically what you do comes out to the general public. So yeah, I'm glad you're getting some good response on this, because it's like I said, just I really enjoy just the whole world, the way things are set up, and then of course as each episode rolls along, you get more and more layers to things. Like the most recent episode deals with some of Lacey's, maybe her background or kind of where she is in the world outside of all the things that are happening, the supernatural stuff, like where her real world is. So you get a little more background on her character in the most recent episode, and yeah, there's some dramatic stuff in there. Of course, for some of the more dramatic and maybe tougher content episodes, you do us a solid and throw up a disclaimer, like hey, check out, this one's going to involve this thing. So if it gets a little too tense for you, we're helping you out a little bit. So we appreciate that too.
Thanks. Yeah. In writing that, I realized as I was outlining the story, without giving anything away, each character has to start having walls closed around them so that they don't have a choice but to pursue the thing. I guess it's sort of like a hero's journey style, in that they think that they can't, but then they must. And uh, the most recent episode is one of those where Lacey's walls start to come down around her, and suddenly her options become very limited. And then she has to pursue the thing and make sure that she can solve the problem, and that she can't just default on what she's always been doing. She has to have it removed, without choice. And
Mhm.
I hope that she's someone that people can really relate to, because there's something really important about expressing the experience of poverty and experiencing this feeling of grief and uncertainty, where at one point in the episode she calls on her grandmother to help her, who's passed on, and you start to wonder, how present are our ancestors in the decisions that we make, and what kind of help are we getting in the way that Lacey is asking for it. But with her, it ends up being a little spookier.
That's what I like about the aspect of the show, because of course Anna is definitely, if you want to compare the two on first glance, Anna seems to be a little more of kind of the character that needs a bit more strength, maybe needs a bit more kind of a growing up, sort of thing like that. It's kind of hardened, a little more hardened experience, whereas Lacey is the exact opposite. And it's nice that the two of them play off each other, their strengths and their weaknesses or whatnot are kind of how they interact. And so yeah, I like how you're doing a really good job of character building, where we're getting some we're getting some conflict, we're getting a little bit of kind of like splitting things up. It seems maybe Anna's a little more invested in kind of what's going on versus what Lacey is. But then yeah, as you said, Lacey kind of finds out like, okay, I'm I'm stuck in this stuff either way, so let's go. So yeah, that's again, I really enjoy that stuff. But I the thing I enjoy about the mystery of the show, of course, like I said, we're looking for a missing girl, but there is some other aspects of mystery that pop up in there, including the mystery of what it actually is the ladies are facing. Uh, we have kind of maybe some hints, or if you know a little bit of your Appalachian folklore, you can take some guesses. But that's another thing I like. It's kind of a very Jaws thing you're doing here, like where you're just teasing the monster. You know.
I love those stories. I think especially with movies, the ones where you don't see the whatever it is, the creature, the monster, the outside evil force,
Mhm.
whatever it is, that and again, I'm sensitive, so it doesn't take much for my imagination to just start running and freaking out. So those are the stories that I appreciate the most with horror. Yeah, I don't want to see it, actually. I don't want it. I don't need it.
But that's cool though. I really enjoy when people who are outside of the horror genre, or they're new to it, get into it, and then you find out it's like, oh, you got some acumen for this stuff here. So yeah, tip the cap on here for this one, because like I said, yeah, for somebody who's not, a horror. I mean, like I said, this isn't like, nail biting, jump out of your, seat, terrifying or anything like that. But it's a great, spooky, eerie sort of atmosphere to things. So yeah, just like I said, it's a great whole, soundscape, the whole world you built here. So yeah, definitely, again, kudos to this one on here.
Thanks. That really means a lot.
You're welcome. The new episodes for Moss Hollow drop Tuesdays. So, like I said, anywhere you check out your podcast, or you can go directly to mosshollowpod.com to get all Moss Hollow things you need here. And I'll put the graphic up one more time so you can see the picture to it. I love that too. How's the main actress is a little blurred too? That's really cool.
Yeah, this photographer is great. I actually found this image on Unsplash, and as soon as I saw it, I knew this is the cover for the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So, well, hey, normally on the Fanatic Forum, I do some comic book reviews as well. So if you want, you can stick around for those. But if you have to go, then I will let you go this time. So whichever one you want to do, if you want to stick around for a little bit.
I would love to stick around. I want those reviews.
Okay, cool. Well, let's see here. I do have only a couple of Marvel, one DC, but I do have a couple of good independents here to talk about. So this one, of course, will be a little easy for you to relate to. The new issue of The Flash has come out here. This is not our friend Spencer here, but everybody always thought he looked a lot like the actual guy.
Spencer's awesome.
No, I haven't seen Spencer in forever here. Spencer was my main cosplayer for The Flash, and everybody thought he was Grant Gustin in the suit. So once again, everybody thought I was hiring actors from the CW to come to this Kentucky State Fair or Comic Cons and hang out with everybody. And so, yeah, we were well liked. We were popular. Anyway, this is a new series for The Flash starting up here. Cy Spurrier is the writer. Mike Deodato Jr. Does, of course, the cover art here and does the interior art. I really enjoyed the storyline. The writing kind of took the long way to get going. So as a first issue, it's a little slow going, but once things start building up, it does get a little bit more interesting. But a very different storyline here, because basically, of course, we're dealing with Wally West now as the Flash. Barry Allen is kind of off helping police the multiverse and the timeline. So basically, Wally's now on Earth around as the Flash. So we technically have two Flashes, right now. But we're dealing with basically some problems within the Speed Force, and perhaps there were beings that are users of the Speed Force that maybe have been cast out of the Speed Force for whatever reason and are now maybe trying to become part of it, maybe trying to corrupt it itself. But Wally's having a lot of power outages at inopportune times, and then basically starting to discover, again, kind of some darker aspects of the Speed Force that he's never experienced before. So an interesting mystery on this one here. I'm curious to see where it goes. I hope the writing starts to get a little snappier. But Mike Deodato Jr.'s art, who I'm a big fan of his, absolutely love it. It works well because Mike's he's a very heavy inker, and so he has a lot of dark lines, dark kind of feel to his art. And normally the Flash is a very sunny, kind of very very colorful sort of story, and so it's kind of neat to have a little bit darker tone to thing here. So I'm intrigued by further. We'll see how that goes. Let's see, a couple of independents here. I loved Stuff of Nightmares from last year when it did a bit of a retelling of the classic Reanimator storyline. This is a new one-shot called Red Murder. So I guess maybe we're going to do some one-shots from time to time. But this is written by R.L. Stine. Yes, that R.L. Stine of Goosebumps fame. He's gotten into doing horror comics, and this is not safe for kids stuff. Goosebumps was definitely kind of family friendly with a little spooky side. His Stuff of Nightmare stuff is not. It is true gory horror stuff. Like I said, the original Stuff of Nightmares 4-issue series was based on the Reanimator, kind of a retelling of that. This is basically a comic book creator creates a kind of a mass murdery sort of hero called Red Murder, who basically goes around killing people, screaming into the murderverse. an odd sort of thing like that. Later in life, the creator kind of has some hard times, even though the character itself is doing very well in movies and TV and whatever else. And perhaps the guy's maybe taking his work home with him a little bit. So, but yeah, a very fun one shot here. And then, of course, it sets up another one shot coming out around Christmas time. And it didn't tell us much about the storyline, except it showed a cover of a very crazed looking Santa Claus holding a chainsaw. So, Merry Christmas! Let's see here. Next one here from Titan Press, issue 3 of Conan the Barbarian. This is, of course, their new series they've been doing for a couple months now. I am still absolutely in love with this series. For Conan fans, this is a true return to form here. You've got just a fantastic storyline. Roberto De La Torre's art in this book is just a gift. For old school Conan fans, he is doing basically kind of a shout out to John Buscema's art from the 70s and 80s run that Conan did with Marvel. So it has a very old school, very visceral sort of feel to it. It's just absolutely gorgeous book. I cannot say enough good things about this. I know they're going to do at least 6 issues for this first series, but of course they'll have more to come. But yeah, just if the way things are going as they are, I'm there for it. Being an old school Conan fan is just, you can tell it doesn't take much to do a good story, and they have all the right aspects to it. So again, just story, art, everything's beautiful. 2 Marvel selections here. Issue 2 of The Immortal Thor from Al Ewing and Martin Coccolo. Does the interior art. Alex Ross does the covers here, so you got these beautiful painted covers here. But of course, Thor is now essentially, he's Odin, essentially, or Thorden, or however you want to match that up. Either way, he has the Odin power. He's in charge of things right now, and dealing with some, very, very old gods sort of coming into play here. Someone who's basically very much a match for Thor on their power level, physicality, everything else. The interesting thing is that basically, since Thor's got a much more, greater power increase now that he's inherited his father's abilities, what comes with that, though, unfortunately, is when he depletes so much energy, Odin always had to, of course, in mythology and in the comics, Odin always had to go through the Odin sleep. When he used too much of his ability, too much of his powers, he'd have to essentially have a nap. But you don't know how long it's going to last. And that's the problem. Basically, he's depleted, he's completely exhausted, and that's what's happening to Thor here. He's fighting this creature that is, 100% out of his realm, but Thor is able to handle the guy, but now completely depleted and has to take his nap. But again, we don't know how long that's going to be. This threat is still out there. He still has a job to do, but now no one's there to do it for him. So nice little kind of a cliffhanger ending on this issue here. But yeah, so a interesting storyline. I like how that's going, and kind of giving the immortal touch. Kind of Al Ewing did this for the Hulk series, the Immortal Hulk, that came out a couple years ago. So it has a bit more of a grandiose sort of tone to it. You get some interesting quotations that kind of either begin or end the book. It has just a much weightier feel to it. So again, just really enjoy how things are going there. And lastly here, gotta love the new Blade series here that Brian Hill's been doing. This has been a lot of fun here because Blade essentially woke up taking out a vampire nest in the first issue. He woke up something that is very old and really angry about the fact that it's awake. We kind of get a little bit more of an inkling of what this creature is at the beginning of this issue here. And if you remember the film Hellraiser, when the evil stepfather shows back up without any skin for part of the movie, so he's just walking around looking like a biology diagram. That's kind of what our creature is here. So again, very old, very powerful, very nasty here. Blade finally kind of learns some background, perhaps, on how to take out this character, but what it involves is finding the sword that Lucifer used to wield when he was an angel. So that's going to be easy. But nice little cliffhanger at the end of this issue here. Perhaps he's going to get a little help from everybody's favorite Sorcerer Supreme from the Marvel Universe there. So, but the reunion is not so sweet though, because basically Strange is a little annoyed by the fact that Blade woke this thing up, and now you're going to help me take it out.
George, when I grow up, I want to be what you said, which is old and powerful and nasty. That's my dream. I think that comic's for me.
There you go. Probably, skin would be a good thing though. Don't do the,
Oh yeah.
like I said, I can't remember what there's a name for that diagram where you see like the first layer of dermis is gone. So you're seeing all the muscles and the sinew and everything like that. That's kind of what this lady looks like here.
That's hot. That'll be in someday. I wear my SPF though.
Yeah, you're gonna need it. Yeah, I mean, Lady Gaga kind of did it a little bit with the meat suit, so it's kind of close,
Oh my god, legendary.
Legendary. Says this is the part of the show where George gets me to spend money. And he says he's going to need that Conan 3. Yes, I know. See, that's the other thing, too, is that since, Seth's best friend, works at a comic book shop, and I give these recommendations, and then Seth will tell me what books I need to purchase for him, and there you go. So you'll get a Conan, and a Sacrificers #3 is coming out next week, so I'll get that for you too, buddy.
Lucky.
Well, this is how it works. When you have a friend that works in a comic book store, you just message your friend and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this book. Can you get it?" And the answer more than likely is yes, because we have a lot of books at Collaborating Comics. But if we can't, I can find a way for you to get it. So yeah. So now basically you have a hookup in the comic book industry, even though I'm more on the retail side of things, but nonetheless. So yeah. So
yes, and a dwindling savings account.
That's
eventually.
Yeah, that's why I decided to not have children, so I can still buy comic books. So I always hear all these stories of guys like, "Yeah, man, I collected comics for years, and then I had kids." Like, see, that's the problem. Children are the problem when it comes to your hobbies. So there you go.
I think I love kids, but you made the right decision.
We have cats, so I have children. They're just small, furry, and require a lot of feeding. But other than that, they're pretty low maintenance.
And they're very, very cute.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, they try to frequently make guest appearances on the show, which I'm surprised they're not tonight. I see Pepper over in the corner hanging out, but usually Carol Ann uses this opportunity to appear on camera and address her public, but she must be sleeping. So there you
go. Priorities.
Yeah. So, well, that is all I've got for you for our comics. So thank you very much for being on here. And again,
thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We got to give you your plug one more time. MossHollowPod.com is your one-stop shop for all things Moss Hollow for this podcast. New episodes, like I said, download on Tuesdays. Highly, highly, highly recommend you guys checking this show out here. So, and I'm not just saying that because Melinda and I are friends, because it's a really good show. So
you can say it just because we're friends. That doesn't bother me.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Either way. So yeah. Aside from Moss Hollow, are there any other projects or anything else you would like to plug?
If you're in the Louisville area, I teach part-time at the Commonwealth Theater Center. And if you have young people in your family between the ages of 6 and 18 who are interested, please enroll them. They're still enrolling for acting classes. It's an after-school program. And as I said, I teach there part-time. So I'd love to help with bringing up the next generation of actors and helping them get inspired too. So that's my only plug, though, is your wife knows how it is. Teaching is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, matter of fact, she's off hanging out with some friends. They're all teachers right now, so it's their usual Friday night. The week is over sort of hangout. So, so that's what's going on right now. So yeah, but the struggle is real for educators. But yes, so so awesome. That's a wonderful project, though.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you have any questions, just reach out and let me know. But thank you so much. If you're interested in listening to the podcast, let me know what you think and leave me a rating or review so other people can find the show. And thank you, George, for being so awesome. I loved doing this.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. Like I said, when I've got friends that have projects, I always want to help promote that as well, especially when it's a really good project here. And yeah, this one deserves to be promoted here because, like I said, just very well done. Like I said, technically 6 episodes, it's a prologue and 5 full episodes in, but yeah, I'm invested. I'm hooked into it. So I'm glad we're going to have at least 20 some odd episodes. So I know it's not going to be over anytime soon. So that's a good thing. We have many more weeks to enjoy the show. So good.
Yes,
Well,
and
again,
an extra scary one for Halloween as well, because Halloween is on a Tuesday.
yeah, that's weird too. Halloween on Tuesdays. Oh, man.
You know.
Yeah, I normally am a fan of Halloween on the weekends so the kids can stay out a little later, do stuff, but whatever. So yeah, either way. So thank you again very much for being on the show here. But yeah, so again, check out Moss Hollow. Do yourself a favor, enjoy the show, and definitely leave a rating, leave a review, whatever the case may be. Show some support as well. So thank you very much, Melinda, for being on here. And I'm going to let you go now, let you get back to your life and creation and whatnot.
Wine and editing.
Yeah, there you go. Editing. I understand that. So again, thank you very much. So take care and good to see you, dear.
Thank you, George. Bye, everyone.
Bye. And thank you guys very much for tuning in to the show here. Again, yeah, check out Moss Hollow. It's awesome. And I will leave you guys with a word from our sponsors, Comic Books for Kids. And then you guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next time on the Fanatic Forum. Take care.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.